Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm here with two speakers and a host of this session. I will just introduce them, but the floor will be there. So the first one, the first speaker is Jenny Hemp. So she is a global community director at Amani Institute. And then we have Pauline Donga, a senior program manager from Kenya at Amani Institute. So this session is being recorded and will be sent to your emails just in case you want to check something after the meeting. So, and you will receive all of the information. So I just want to say that I encourage you to participate at the Slack channel, because after this session, we will have a challenge where we can discuss about the topic of this session. So thank you so much for being here. And now the first year, Pauline and Geraldine.
Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Pauline, go.
No, go ahead. I was just saying hello before we get started.
Wonderful. It's wonderful to see. Also, we already see in the chat, people are writing from where they're coming. It's so exciting to be with you here today. As Isabel was saying, my name is Geraldine. You can call me Gigi. And I'm currently what used to be an island in a political sense in Berlin, where West Berlin used to be an island in the midst of East Germany, which is a very curious part of our history. And yeah, we are just welcoming you. We are excited to be here with you. And we will be together for 90 minutes. And we hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. Over to you, Pauline.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I saw somebody even say good morning. I think those in the Asian part of the world. Very happy to be here with you today. My name is Pauline, as Isabel has already introduced, from the Amani Institute. I come from a mainland nation that has a wonderful coastline, the beautiful country called Kenya, based in the capital city, Nairobi. And I'm very happy today to be speaking to people who live in some of the most stunning parts of the world. I'm hoping to have some really good conversations around what innovation looks like. Back to you, Gigi. Or is it Isabel? Yeah.
Actually, I think we can do the heart exercise now.
Very good. Okay, good. So there's quite a number of us, and we might, while we would love to hear all of your voices, I'm sure you appreciate that might be quite difficult. So we're going to do two things to just get ourselves into the mood for this evening, this morning, afternoon, evening session. So I'm going to ask us all to turn on our mics. If you turn on your microphone, you just turn on your microphone. And then I want us to say hello to each other in the language from where you are dialing in from. So however you say hello in that language, and we're going to do it simultaneously. So it's going to be kind of, you know, a hello bust from around the world. So is everybody ready for that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. On three. So 1, 2, 3, go.
Hello.
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 Hola.
Hola.
Hello.
Nice.
Boa tarde.
Aloha.
Boa noite.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, super. So we have at least, you got a chance to bring your voice into the room. So the second part that we're gonna do is visually. We want to get a sense of where are we around the world. And for that, I have a little exercise here that I call Hearts Around the World. I have a world map here. And what you're gonna do is, just give it a second when it comes up. Very good. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see a panel, a control panel that says view options.
At the top.
Oh, at the top. Okay, depend. If you have, if for people who have mobile devices, there'll be a button. But if you have a
Sorry, I muted you by accident.
Okay. Right. So at the top of your screen, you will have view options. So I want you to click on view options.
This is next to the green thing that says you're viewing Pauline's screen. And then right to it, there is a little like gray thing that says view options.
Super. When you get there, you will find an instruction that says annotate. So click on the annotate. When you click on the annotate, you will get a panel that has some other instructions, and I want you to go to the stamp. When you get to the stamp, somebody has some very funky music happening, okay? When you get to the stamp, I want you to pick a heart, and then I want you to put your heart, the heart where your home is. So pick a heart.
Beijinho a todos.
And
Pois
then
olha, eu também não, é trabalho e mais trabalho. Can you mute yourself if you are not speaking, please? Thank you.
excellent, good. The instructions seem to be quite straightforward, loving it.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's amazing.
Ah, beautiful.
This is so wonderful. We have to do this sometime, Isabel. This is great.
Yeah, for sure.
We also have people that are way out in the ocean.
Amazing. That's so beautiful. Somebody has
This
to take a screenshot of this. Oh, you can actually save it, I think, Pauline.
This is quite powerful. This is very, very powerful. All right, lots of hats out here tonight. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Keep them coming. Oh, we have representation from all over the world. This is wonderful.
That's such a beautiful connection also to the exercise we will do a bit later. So
Absolutely.
actually, maybe that's a good moment to tell all of you like what we will do today. We will give you a bit of an overview of who we are in terms of an organization, what we are doing in the world with change makers and for change makers that we understand you all also are. And then we will introduce an innovation framework to you that has proven to be very helpful for guiding change makers in their journeys, in their projects, their careers. And then we will dive actually into an exercise that is part of that framework in a deeper way, so that you also have an opportunity to actually talk to each other and do a bit of a reflection around your own why. And then we will have time for questions and probably will be at the end of the journey.
Great, thank you, Gigi. So do you want to tell them who we are now that you've told them why we're here? Thank you everyone for sharing your hearts. We have saved this and Isabel will have it and she can share it right after that. But this is really powerful. I love that I can see lots of hearts in places that are along coastlines. We have hearts out there in the sea, in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the big blue. And I think it's a very fitting congregation of people to talk about, you know, you kind of frontliners, especially those who are living on coastlines and on islands. The way the world is changing constantly, you're some of the communities that are impacted fast and impacted hard. And so there is an opportunity here for us to collectively think innovatively or kind of bring our collective creative muscle and more important for today, build kind of a collective energy around the change making that we want to do and what are the mindsets that we could have that could get the behaviors we need to embody that would be able to make us effective people from all of these locations. So Gigi, who are we?
Thank you, Pauline. I muted the voice, but it was a children's voice. And actually, this is I didn't want to mute the child voice. I think the child voice is why we're all here. I remember being myself a child and thinking that the grown-ups only borrow the world from us, this planet. And I was really, really concerned with environmental destruction. I grew up in the 80s, so it was the rainforest destruction. It was whaling that was a topic at the time. If you are my age group, probably you remember the ozone layer was a big problem. And we tried to, I think the plastic pollution in the ocean started becoming a topic, but wasn't so much on top of the mind yet, but it was clear that there was a big problem. And I think in comparison to then, at least it's a little bit more mainstream now, the understanding that we really cannot just like behave as if there was no consequence to our actions. And I won't tell you my whole biography, how I ended up with Amani, but I did end up studying adult education and culture after thinking I would become a human rights and environmental lawyer. But then I found actually that where I could have more impact was actually in the educational space. And I remember that that was really a pain for me because my parents, they were also educators. And I wanted to be a lawyer to be also different from my parents. I didn't want to just follow my parents and be the black sheep and become a lawyer. But I had to learn that it's true when people say you have to do what you love because this passion will bring you a lot further and will help you make a bigger impact. So this is how I got into education, and I joined Amani Institute's founders in 2012. I'm part of the founding team. And it was a really interesting journey the last 10 years, building this institute in 3 different continents and working with clients from all around the world. We started out trying to address the crisis of higher education that is not really preparing people to do the work innovatively on the ground. Everyone was speaking about social innovation or social entrepreneurship, but when you think about it, how it goes is that if we are lucky, we get to study and then we hopefully find a job, and then we learn really the professional skills we need on the job. But how we learn it on the job is how it's been done in the field. And so if everyone talk about innovation, the question becomes like, when do you learn how to innovate if you don't learn it anywhere on the path? And if your organization or the company you join doesn't know how to do it, like how will you learn from them? So Amani Institute was born from this question: how can we train people to become more innovative and more impactful in creating change? And so initially it came from a peace building motivation, but then we quickly realized it is actually for anyone who wants to create change, this kind of training is going to be important. So that's, you can go to the next slide, Pauline. So we started out with developing changemakers. We developed a postgraduate program, kind of responding still to the higher education crisis. And this postgraduate program is our main program that is in social innovation management. It invites professionals from 20 to 60 and above to come together in a class with a lot of diversity from people from all over the world. We have now 600 alumni from 70 plus countries and professionals from all kinds of different backgrounds. In the beginning, we thought it's for graduates from university, but actually it wasn't true. We found out that our real clients are more already people that work as change makers, or, and this is very interesting, people that work in the private sector that want to change their lives, and they want to change the career and dedicate the career to change making. So they also come to our program to make a career shift. And also, by the way, if I talk too fast, please let me know. Because I want to fit so many information in, but yeah. Anyway, so as the story goes, you start with one thing, that come other things. We realized a lot of the organizations where we were, they also wanted to do exactly that, understand how to actually be more innovative and how to improve how they do work. Because one interesting thing, if you are also one of the people that work in the private sector and they hope to go to the social change sector and they think, the solution is, if I could only have a job with impact, then my life would be better. But then you realize you join maybe the UN, or maybe you join a grassroots organization or an NGO. Toxic work environments exist everywhere because we are humans and we carry our shadows with us, no matter where we go. So you can also find very toxic work environments in social change. The people have the same ego problems, the people have the same communications problems, the people have the same problem with burning out, the people, so in the end you realize, oh wow, there is so much improvement that we can do. So we got a lot of clients also of organizations and companies that work with social change. So here you can see we have customized trainings that we create for organizations like Oxfam or UNICEF or Care International. And these are big names, but you can imagine in the beginning, we said yes to everyone. We had many clients, even small, because you have to build a reputation. And then with time, you can have clients that have more money, they can pay you more money. And then this is how we can, as a social enterprise, finance scholarships for our in-person programs. So you can see here in the core of what we do is in-person program. And we have also one in Brazil that is in Portuguese. And actually one of the staff, one of the team in Island Innovation did our program in Brazil in Portuguese. This is how we got connected. And then, of course, there's also more that we do, which is like be part of a larger movement. And in a way, you can call it the purpose economy. There is hope that there's more and more people around the world that care about this planet, either because they have to, because they see there's no other option now, or because genuinely it's just a love for this beautiful planet that I think unite all of us here probably. So we do also talks and events, we convene people, we bring people together, and we're always so happy to be also speaking with people in a different network, because we believe that connecting these different networks is where the power lies. So we hope that there's little ripple effects, and hopefully some of the Amani Fellows around the world can connect with the island innovators around the world also going forward. You can go to the next slide. Yes, here's just an overview of some of our clients. I think we don't have to go deeper into it, but just to give you an idea, like we go from even Deloitte, which is more in the private sector, to HEVOS, which is a foundation that work with culture, to Oxfam that you probably know. So there's a really big and diverse spectrum, and it is also reflected in the people that come to us in our individual programs. And it just speaks to a world beyond boundaries. We all need to create change, really, like even if we're in politics, even if we're in the private sector or in the social sector. And as I mentioned earlier, what we are focusing on as Amani is like to create capacity in the organization, in people, to be better change makers. And so some of the things I already mentioned, right? You can make a big bucket. You can say, okay, it's around leadership skills. For example, the ego problem that I talk about, right? In leadership, you have to have a lot of reflection. You have to have a lot of introspection. You have to understand who you are and what style of leading is for you. And you have to understand that is beyond your role, right? We can all be leaders no matter what role we have. So there's so many different things that we can learn and that can help us be better leaders. A lot of it is mindset work and consciousness work. And then there's, of course, practical things about how to manage, right? If you want to manage an enterprise or a team, a business, and so on. There are so many things that you can learn there. Then we are thinking about communication, because this is, as our favorite instructor, Robert Wolf says, 100% of the time communication fails. So there's so much to improve every time for all of us, I think, in communication. And innovation, of course, is at the heart of what we do. And there we look at creativity, but innovation is not just creativity, right? Innovation is actually including creativity, but it is a whole process. It's a whole journey that we can follow that can help us really come to a new and improved outcome. And it's easier said than done. I think the most famous innovation skill that you probably know of is around design thinking, But it's one thing to have a list of steps that you can take, and it's the other one to actually do it, right? So we focus in Amani a lot on the mindsets and on the inner capacity that we need. For example, if you think about innovation in design thinking, you can say, you know, you cannot be afraid of failure. You have to experiment and iterate quickly and so on, right? But it's easier said than done, to be honest, right? It's messy and it can be very scary. There's a whole lot of things that can stand in our own way, and usually is ourselves that stand in our own way. Oftentimes we can actually say, okay, it's this and this and this thing that stand in our own way, but oftentimes it's even ourselves, right? So there's a part where we also have to look inside and see how can we grow our courage, how can we grow our habits, how can we manage our energies better, and so on, so that we don't burn out, so that we can really walk this path for as long as is necessary. And I believe it's probably all of our lives, to be honest, because it's a constant creative process to live with this world and shape it and make sure that we can leave it to our children in a better way. So this is just a little bit of an introduction. We hope that by the end of the workshop, you have learned a bit more about this innovation framework that I already mentioned, that is part of our methodology, and the mindsets that are part of it. And we hope that you will have started a process of alignment around your why as a change maker. And with that, over to you, Pauline.
Great, thank you, Gigi, for setting us up for that. So as mentioned earlier, we will learn an innovation framework. At the Amani Institute, we pride ourselves in, we call ourselves facilitators more than anything else. And it stems from the thinking that generally people know what they need to do. What they struggle with is the how. And that how could be a method. It could be perhaps there's some a mindset they need to override or understand or build awareness on. And so with that in mind, the team came up with a framework for innovation. And this framework is combining best practices from a number of methodologies in leadership, management, kind of the buckets that we shared earlier, combining from the human-centered design thinking, from the systems thinking, from adaptive leadership, from something we call borrowing from the innovator's DNA, which has a 5-step framework. And so mashing those things together and picking the best of those frameworks and putting them together, we have what we call the ASIF, or the Amani. Sorry, my gadget is there we go. The ASIF, right? So our change-making framework, and it has 8 steps to them. They're not necessarily linear. Go back and forth across the steps. So in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to walk you through the various stages of the frameworks. Most importantly, thinking about what are the mindsets or the behaviors that we would need to embody for us to be able to do this. So when we are talking about, you will see in the slides, following slides, I'm calling it mindsets and frameworks for change making or for innovation. So again, I live in this part of the world. I really feel compelled that I want to do something, or I may even be moderately compelled or moderately passionate about something. And the intent here is to think about, okay, what would I need to do to move from this stage where I'm just thinking about doing something into doing something? What could be some of the hurdles? What could be some of the wins? So as we go through this, it's an opportunity to introspect, think for ourselves, collect some notes for ourselves in terms of what would I need to do as I go through this process, and then Gigi will take us through an even deeper kind of reflection. So we start with the words of Albert Einstein, who says that if he had an hour to solve a problem, he'd rather spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem, 5 minutes thinking about the solution. Because it's very important for us to be able to know what we need to do we need to be very clear and grounded into the particular issue. So I'm concerned about climate change, but what particularly about climate change? What angle am I interested in? Is do I have a unique perspective around this? And what is that starting point for us? That starting point is what we call step 1 of the framework, which is the burning. And in the burning, this is the part where we ask ourselves, this is where it all starts. We start by asking ourselves, what social challenge or opportunity do I currently care about the most? Right? So that's what you're asking yourself. What am I most concerned about? It could be one thing, it could be multiple things. What would I need to do in order for me to kind of ground myself in this particular issue? I need to have vision. I need to have passion and commitment, and I need to have purpose, right? So for some are mindset, some are behaviors. So those are the things for me to be able to, as I, kind of ground myself or orient myself better towards this particular issue, or for me to be able to identify it, to sit with it. I need vision. These are some of the mindsets and behaviors I need to bring, to the table for myself. Passion and commitment, as well as purpose. Once I identify these things, this thing that I'm really, passionate about, that I really want to do something about it, my burning, I now go out to find out more about the challenge using as many sources as possible. And this is the stage we call sensing. It's a massive research that it goes beyond, for people who have been through academic processes, we are familiar with when we do research for our projects, right? In this particular one, we're challenging ourselves to go to as many diverse sources as possible, and the inner work required for us, the mindsets required for us in order to do this with the depth that we require to be able to build all of the knowledge around the issue, or as much as we have around our burning. The first thing we need to do is be very aware about our mental models. What mental models are we bringing into an environment? We go in, when we are observing a space, when we are observing an issue, when we're observing a community, be very aware, bring to your awareness the mental models in which you have, because they have an impact on how you perceive what is happening in that environment. Maybe you're conducting interviews with a constituency of people. How you view the world will have an impact. So having that awareness is very key. The second thing that we think you should bring to this particular, the mindset here, is courage. Courage to do. Innovation and the distinction, one of the key distinctions between innovation and creativity is with innovation, it's the doing. I can sit somewhere and think of a good idea. Innovation only happens when I actually get up and do. So the courage to do, courage to even get up from your comfort zone and go out to do some investigation around a particular issue. And as you do that, to practice active listening and empathy, to see the situation from the perspective of the people whom you want to solve this social challenge or issue for. To be very aware that when you go into that environment, you carry a perspective. However, because you want to solve an issue for that community, then it's very important that you practice active listening so that you can hear how these individuals see the problem. We have this is a common challenge with development work. We probably have a grant. The grant has already been there's already a prescription, what needs to happen with it. So even when we go out to do our sensing, we do it with the intent to confirm what the grant requires us to do. And yet here we are being challenged to kind of suspend that and listen, go and listen, and even when we're observing, with a very open mind, and hear it from the perspective of the people we want to solve for, and then design with their perspective in mind. Only then can we come up with, can the solutions that we propose be sustainable. The next thing we do now is, or as part of that, is a very cool and strategic skill around for innovation, that is asking good questions. What are the questions about this challenge that no one else is asking? How can I reframe the challenge? Is there an opportunity for me to see this challenge from a whole other perspective? Because in reframing it, I present a whole, I open myself to a whole set of opportunities. And again, being aware of our mental models and being willing to challenge them in this, in this stage, being willing to challenge our perspective, the way we see the world, curiosity and openness. So going in with the mind of a child, blank slate, and let the environment kind of advise you on what's happening. Or yes, let the environment speak to you, so in a manner of speaking. And of course, good questions, because there's questions and then there is good questions. And of course, after asking good questions, we have to be able to do some deep listening with our hearts and our minds, not just with our ears. Good listening helps us to hear even the unspoken stuff. And as we all know, as we commonly know, there is a lot more is said in silence or in body language, in alternate manners, in alternate forms of communication. Now that we've done that, there is an opportunity here to look at the situation through the lens of another field, another experience, something that could help you adapt to the challenge. And this stage is called associating. What do I mean by that? We have a problem of construction. We want to construct homes in a flood-prone area. We look at animals. We go to the field of the people who work with animals, the animals that live in flood-prone areas and they thrive. What adaptability mechanisms do these animals have from which we can borrow, right? We want to come up with an education policy in this part of the world for children living with disability. What can we learn from other parts of the world or other sectors where people have come up with an intervention where there were a lot of hurdles? So having associative thinking, being able to see an issue and relate with it from another field, bringing our divergent thinking meaning being able to open our minds to multiple perspectives and thinking, what can a farmer learn from an astrologist, for example, about how they see the world? Curiosity is another mindset or behavior that is very key in order for us to do this. And then playfulness and creativity. Seeing the world from the perspective of a child. So now we've done that. We've figured out, we've learned, built a lot of knowledge around the issue we want to deal with. We've been asking good questions. We've listened with our hearts and our minds. We've also seen, walked this issue through multiple lenses. We have even reframed our challenge. So instead of thinking about that islands are small nations located in the peripheries of the world, thinking about that from the other perspective. They are frontline nations with the frontline nations that bring additional perspectives to the world. So now we can start coming up with ideas. We put together everything we've learned in the first half of the framework and now bring our ideas to the table, bringing our creativity, open thinking, divergent thinking. At this point, we are bringing we are not running judgment or passing judgment on any idea idea that comes to mind. We want to allow ourselves and our teams to bring as many and as crazy and as wild ideas to the table. This is an opportunity, and Gigi talked about this, to check our egos and our attachments to the way we see the world, to our ideas, to open our hearts and minds to alternate ideas, even from people who have a very divergent way of thinking from us. There is merit in, in bringing all of this beauty, all of these perspectives to the table, bringing everybody on the curve and allowing them to bring their ideas to the table and seeing what comes from that, combining ideas once they're on the table, borrowing from other fields and other places. And then now we want to run a small test. What could this idea of ours look like in real life? What can a prototype be? Prototypes allow us to quickly test our ideas. I like to say cheap and cheerful. So before we make this big commitment, before we come up with this big proposal for funding, before we put up this big conference to deliberate on something, running small tests in our communities, with our team members, with our families at home, with our friends around, the ideas that we have, and having them give us perspective. What are the behaviors we need here, or the mindsets? Courage. Again, it is doing. Innovation and doing are, it means nothing to come up with a good idea. If we don't do it, the world doesn't experience our good idea. Here we have to drop our fear of failure. And again, Gigi said it very well when we began. When we're going into innovation or we're thinking about change making, one of the things that's a big hindrance is the fear of failure. Experimenting allows us, or prototyping allows us to fail without fear. And, to try, be open to failing, and to keep trying until we get it right. And playfulness, bringing the lightness of a learning process into the prototyping experience or experimenting experience. We have to be very generous with our ideas in order for them to grow. Idea networking is that particular step. What new ideas or feedback can you get from sharing your ideas with a diverse group of people? I like to say to our participants when we have the program, we have not had a unique idea in the last couple of centuries. People have been building on things that have been in existence. And that doesn't mean they are not innovative, right? When you share your idea with people, you get perspective. That perspective helps you think around your idea even better. There's an opportunity to improve it. So active listening, courage to receive feedback, because while it is very easy for us to give feedback to other people, we often forget that it does require courage to receive feedback, especially if you've been working your idea, if you've started the steps all the way and you're quite invested in your idea at this point. And then there is the very beautiful phrase of navigating uncertainty, right? Navigating uncertainty. Anything could happen when you share your ideas with people. They might completely hate it. They might completely love it. They might feel very, kind of blech, very neutral around it. So having the courage to receive that feedback and being willing to go where the feedback takes you, go where the idea takes you. And finally, thinking about, as we are setting up our idea, how do we design it for impact right from the beginning? And this is connected, and it connects very beautifully again back to our burning, because one of the big, when we talk about impacting here, we start with impact in mind. Starting with impact in mind. What is the outcome that we are looking for? And then building backwards. Often we tend to start with the idea and then, kind of make it go towards an outcome. In this case, what is the big thing? What is the big change we are looking for? And then building backwards. We need discipline, resilience, and grit. We like to say to our fellows, The process of change making is long, it's hard, and it's painful. But if it is designed with impact in mind, it is very rewarding because you will likely develop, you will come up with a sustainable intervention that will outlive you and generations to come. Then at the individual level, managing our energy and our emotions. So will be very key in getting us there. So I know it is a lot to process, but I thought we thought this is some gifts that we could give you to help you as you're thinking about your change maker journey. And now I want to hand it back to Gigi, who will give us a very practical perspective where we get to practice one of these steps of the framework.
Wow, thank you so much, Pauline, for taking us through the framework. And thank you for people also contributing in the chat. As I said, we will share a list of resources that you can use to dive deeper in any one of those stages. We are very sure that you are, yes, sorry, I wasn't on my video, sorry. We're very sure that many of those stages or approaches are known to you from your work already, and it's in a way of sort of like bringing it together and reminding ourselves what can be helpful. Of course, real life is super messy, and when we have projects, sometimes like it's all over the place, and then we remember something, we have to check something again, we have to check our assumptions, right? When in the research time, we did our best to be very open, and still we heard only what we wanted to hear. And the problem is also oftentimes we only hear what we know. So we can only identify the knowledge that we kind of can already contextualize. So it's very hard to actually hear something that you don't know, right? So in the process of going through a project, an initiative, of course, we will come back to the research moment. We will come back to the question moment. We will come back to all these different stages and then, rejig and reorient ourselves. And this is why, again, we need this resilience and this grit and the courage to also give something up when it's ready to die. Sometimes ideas need to die, right? or projects, and then we need to make a funeral for it, or maybe even a whole career must die sometimes, and then we have to make a funeral and open to what wants to come new. And it's the same for the systems, right? Like our systems are actually failing on so many fronts. And I feel that we have a problem with death. Like our relationship to death is in so many parts of this world and this culture is a problem. It's forbidden to die. And the systems is dying. It's like we must sometimes learn how to let some of these things go. This doesn't work. Let's close it. Let's honor the part that is working. Let's learn how we can let go of something that is not and try and find this new thing. So it's messy, it is emotional, even though the tech world hope that everything can be solved with an app. And it's true that we need technology to solve some of these really big problems, but because we are humans, it is messy. We are not just rational beings, we are also emotional beings. We are irrational beings in the end of the day, as much as we try to be very professional, but we are not machines. And this is why part of this framework, and this is maybe in a way the one that makes it very unique compared to other innovation frameworks, this is why we started with the question of what is your burning? Because we understand that because this is hard work, and if you are willing to put effort into something to address the really hard work that is gonna challenge you on a personal level, it will challenge you on your patterns, on your weaknesses, but also it will help you shine in your strengths, but it will be hard. And why would we do it if we didn't care, right? And there's so many things we care about sometimes, but it's like right now, what is the one thing that, or maybe a few, but like that really speaks to me? And can I tell my story in a way that shows how I am aligned and connected to this? Why this, right? And so this is in a way very important for us on a personal level that helps us build resilience. But on the other hand, it's also something that helps you build a story, not in a manipulative way. The advertising agency, they use this concept all the time. to manipulate, to buy things, but it is a truth of storytelling that people can connect to our cause, can connect to our initiative in a different way when they also understand how we as a person are situated in it, right? So as you are sharing your cause, your initiative, the challenge that you want to work with or that you're already working with a wider audience or with very specific stakeholders, you can start thinking about in which scenario is it appropriate to perhaps also share my why, my alignment, because it allows another person to think of their own why, of their own alignment, and the resonance of the values and so on can start building a stronger bond in perhaps then working together in addressing this challenge. Okay, so I wanted to share this beautiful quote by Vandana Shiva that you may know of, because it kind of speaks to this challenge. We can and must respond creatively to the triple crisis and simultaneously overcome dehumanization, economic inequality, and ecological catastrophe, right? And this speaks to how diverse and how interconnected our challenges are. And as a change maker, when we're asking how can you be a more impactful change maker, we understand that sometimes it gets very overwhelming. We lose sight of the bigger picture in the day-to-day work. This is where resilience needs to come in. We need to remember, why do we care about this? Or maybe we now care about something else and we have to let this other thing die, remember? But then also, what do I do? Like, how is the part that I'm doing even helping the bigger picture, right? And then we have to understand that we are all playing a role. Like, we have to choose something. There's so many things that need to be addressed, but we are so many people all around the world. Island Innovation is a huge ambassador program, already many people, but there are so many fellowship programs around the world. There are so many people that are really addressing all these different challenges every day. So we are many, even if maybe you don't see it in the news all the time, right? So it's good to know that while we care about many, many things, what is the one that I right now resonate most with? And this is something that we want to give you as an exercise to sort of start clarifying what is your why. So we have talked a lot, and I would love to invite you now to actually get into action. Okay, so I see a few people with video on, so thank you for your feedback in your face. That was helpful. Those of you who are not with video, but you are still here with us, I invite you to sit on wherever you are in a comfortable position. Put your feet on the ground. If you're already sitting on the ground, just feel the ground. And I invite you to close your eyes if that is not uncomfortable for you. And allow yourself to actually, for a second, just arrive in the space where you are, because we are somehow in this virtual space connected through this technology, but we are also in very specific geographical locations right now. So maybe take a breath. Feel your body, you can wiggle your toes, and you can listen to the sounds around you. And maybe take your fingertips and rub them against each other so that you bring your attention really to where you are physically. This is a trick, by the way, that you can use when things get really stressful in a boardroom, in a difficult conversation, to bring you back where you are right now. And then I invite you to imagine the planet. So you can zoom out a little bit, zoom out of your house, and then the piece of land that you're on, the continent or the island. Maybe you can remember the map with the hearts that we had earlier, and imagine all the other people right now doing the same weird exercise, following Gigi, trusting her. And you can imagine all these different people that care about this planet as much as you do, all around this beautiful planet. And then you can zoom out even a little bit more. We don't have to be Jeff Bezos to go into space. You can just imagine this beautiful gift we have, imagination. Zoom out even more and see this beautiful blue planet in space, circling around the sun. There's other planets. It's such a mystery that we're all here somehow. And look at this planet and feel what you feel about it. Why do you care about it? What is your connection? What do you love about this planet? We can zoom in a little bit closer if you like. Play with that for a minute. If your mind wanders, bring it back and try really to imagine this planet. And then you can come closer to it again. Maybe you see more details now. The land or water masses around you. And then softly land again in your body. Wiggle your toes. You can rub your fingertips against each other gently. And then take another deep breath. And if you have a pen and a paper near you, I would love for you to grab it. Or maybe you can also type in your laptop, but it's actually better to write by hand. And I will guide you through a little bit of a journaling exercise. And it's all an invitation. If you don't feel like participating, don't worry. It's okay. But if you are curious to challenge yourself to be more playful, a little bit divergent, then you can participate. It's a little meta skill in creativity. So if you have found your pen and your paper, I would like you to start writing down, when I looked at the planet, I felt or I thought. And allow yourself to write just freely. And if you don't know what to write, just write, I don't know what to write. This is a really weird exercise. But if you know what to write, just write, when I saw the planet, I felt. I'm going to give you about 1 minute to write that. And then you can continue, and you can take the writing prompt from the many challenges around me. This concerns me most right now. And then you start writing about what off the top of your mind right now springs to your mind. What is really on top of your mind right now? What concerns you most? So what concerns me most right now? What infuriates me most? What makes me most angry? Or maybe what do I love most? It doesn't have to be only anger. But what what moves your heart when you think of so many challenges that need to be solving? Like, which one speaks more to you? And you don't have to think about your work right now. Like, allow yourself to be just like, go with the exercise, whatever comes to your mind right away. And then allow yourself to draw out what are other things that really concern you or that really speak to you. Maybe make a little mind map or something. What are all, like, can you come up with like quickly with 5 or with 10 topics that really annoy you, or that you would love to address if you had all the time in the world, all the money in the world? What are the things that you would love to address as a change maker? Allow yourself to put a little bit more quantity there. So you can see we are practicing in a mini way already some of those behaviors and capacities. Allow yourself to be divergent in your thinking. And then as you write out, like, what are the things that move you right now, that concern you right now? Do you know why? Why? Why you? Why does it speak to you? Is it because of your heritage? Is it your family history? Is it because of a value that is very important to you? Is it a biographical experience? Why you? Why is this important to you? And again, just write whatever comes to your mind. Don't make it too, it doesn't have to be the full truth. You can go deeper after the session. Just allow yourself to let come whatever comes on top of your mind. Gigi asked me this, I must answer. Why is it important to me? Which values are there? Is there something in my family history? And then we're concluding this exercise. It was a rapid fire exercise. It's called free. It's a bit of an adapted version of the free writing exercise. If this was too fast for you, don't worry. You can do it again on your own time. The way we propose to do this is that maybe you take 5 minutes and just free write. And free writing means that you trick your brain not to think your usual thoughts. That's why you have to continue writing. Even I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. It's like if you continue writing, suddenly new things come up that you may not have thought in your usual patterns, because there are narratives that we tell other people who we are, what we care about, right? And they can become old. And it's narratives that sometimes also imprison us. It's the only same story again and again, right? And so it is actually quite helpful to sometimes sit down and try and find other things that are also true in your story and in your why and why you care. And don't take it lightly, because again, as a change maker, it is quite important to be in touch with a more wholesome sort of like perspective. This has multiple advantages, even just practicing seeing different perspectives inside of you. It's a practice that you want to use also as you work with stakeholders, right? You want to listen to other people in different ways. You can do that same with yourself. You also want to question assumptions and biases and narratives that we carry with us as we meet other people, but we have them also for ourselves, right? So you can unearth a little bit more what really moves you and why, And this can also help you then, as I said earlier, with your story as you invite other people into your initiative. And as a first practice to do that, we now would like to actually send you off in breakout rooms. So I don't know if you've met each other already in person, but there's so many of you, so probably you will end up in a room with someone you don't know yet. So it takes a little bit of courage and awkwardness in the beginning, but we hope that we can make it easy for you. And Pauline, oh no, let me just share my screen actually. We have a little bit of a preparation for you here. How to go about this. So you will be put into rooms with 2 other people. So you will be 3 together. And usually it takes time to land in a room, right? Maybe your connection, you don't know how to go there, whatever. Then you need to introduce yourself, who you are, where you are, right? So we anticipate maybe it takes 5 minutes. And then we would like you to assign a timekeeper every time that you share your story, because sometimes we start talking and we talk and we talk and we talk, and then the other people don't have time to share, right? So make it part of the rule. 1 person is the timekeeper, and you say per person approximately 4 minutes, okay? And what we will ask you to share is share the example of the one thing that came to your mind in the beginning of the exercise. One of the many challenges that speaks to you in your context. And it doesn't have to be your work right now. If it is your work, you're lucky, but it doesn't have to be your work. Whatever came to your mind, or whatever in retrospect now from the many challenges you want to choose, and say why. And it's also a good practice in not pitching, but in being brief. And allow also, you can even, as you share, you can take a moment to breathe and say, this is why, right? Allow yourself to use this moment as a practice, and also as a safe space of sharing vulnerable, something that is close to you, okay? And the other people, there are 2 other people that are listening. One is the timekeeper that watch the time. The other person, please listen very intently and deeply. This is also an opportunity for you to practice your listening skills, okay? And listening is like active listening, is you don't actually even have to say anything. But after the person speak, maybe you can offer 1 sentence of what you have heard, yeah? But listen also how the person speaks, like how they look like when they talk about something they care about, what is their body language also. And then you switch, and every person gets 4 minutes, and then we will all come back and close the session with your questions and some continuing thoughts. And we know this is, as usual, is always too short, but of course you can connect after the session again, hopefully.
Okay, so all the rooms are created. You just need to click on join, and you will see your rooms.
Yeah. Gigi, we've lost your video. Please come back to us. There she is. Welcome back, everybody. Glad that you're still here. Thank you for still staying the course and for participating in what I'm sure was some very interesting conversations. We're very curious to hear what some of the things that came up in the conversations. So if anyone wants to share, maybe it was something that was very inspiring, could be a question that came up, a comment, a clarification. We want to open the floor so that we can also hear some of the voices.
Good afternoon. This is Omar Chedo from Jamaica. One of the things we discussed in our breakout room was just to reiterate what was said before in the introduction about the importance of human relationships, because you can find toxic relationships anywhere, and in doing our work, in pursuing our passions relating to protecting the environment or, sustainable development, whatever it might be, we have to work with other people in organizations or groups. And you need to have a harmonious relationship in the group. And even if we cannot achieve harmonious, at least a non-toxic environment in which people can, focus on doing what they need to do. And so regardless of whether, you have the technical knowledge and the financing and whatever else that you need, the human relationships, that's the oil that greases the wheels, and so that's very important. We spoke about gender equity. There are certain fields that are male dominated, and we need to look at encouraging more gender equity in those areas, like, engineering and so on. There needs to be openness to new ideas and inventions. Sometimes when someone comes up with a new idea or invention, there's a lot of skepticism. And if you are not well known, no one might listen to you. And, that is something that has to be addressed. And also, we have to develop the right attitudes in our communities in terms of taking care of the environment, because in some islands where there is not yet a problem of environmental degradation, people, take the environment for granted and they think that there will never be any problem there. So people need to start looking at the future and protecting the environment. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Omar. Sounds like there's a really good and energetic conversation in your room. Thank you. Anyone else wants to share with us what they talked about?
Comment on our behalf. There was kind of a three-way sadness and grief on, and was one main point that there's billions of people that don't care. So the destruction of the environment, etc. And there's perhaps a role for us to be guardians for the earth, and kind of related to my comment, which was my burning today, which is not how I'm in business necessarily, but it's an undercurrent, is, as you flew up, that you're actually holding the earth and nurturing it like a child and remembering that it still has vulnerabilities, and, how we parent our children and the next generation is how we should be treating the earth, right? It needs to be nurtured to overcome societal limitations and discovering our uniqueness and purpose contribution. And a little more functionally, but also incredibly graphic, is like, as island nations, the lifeline to the islands, which is our ferries and our transport systems, are not green. They're need to make that transition to green. Many of them are oil-based, and that's really the lifeline. So how can we, make that transition quickly so that the threads to our islands and the transport connections to our islands are really the leadership and the guardians that we need.
Super, great. Thank you, Angela and team. So very good questions being asked there. Thank you very much. And I like that they're very related to the work and the place where a lot of the people on this call are coming from. Great, thank you. If we have time, we can take one more.
Yes, hello, this is Leroy calling from Hawaii, being on one of those small islands out in the Pacific where there's over 2,000 miles before we see the next landmass to come close to us. I am in the technology business, so we look at our islands and the ability to not get rid of the waste and trash that are on there. And then, of course, we're affected by plastics and others that are coming from other countries floating by us in the middle of the ocean. So we actually have, containerized solutions to look at processing those and then turning it to biochar and carbon and fuels to be able to heal the earth is what our mission is. So next couple of months, we'll have our product out there in 20 by 20 containers to be able to place on these islands and really start making a true impact, because we're about trying to do something. We're connected with our University of Hawaii. We've been studying, climate change and the effect of that, but we're on the technology side on how do we come with solutions. We're left out here alone on our own devices. And as you know, island nations, you really don't have a reprieve to run to another location. You have to stay there and deal with the disaster that's impacting you. So the challenge that we have doing climate change is that what solutions we can develop locally that we can be community-based to have everyone pitch in to be able to support. And that's kind of the avenue that we're looking at it. And it's one of those things that advocacy is one thing, but you got to have true concrete solutions to be able to do it, because the plastics keep rolling. The climate continues to affect us. So, and again, we don't have the resource to the large of most places of having a country, or they can go to other states and kind of move around. So that's all I wanted to contribute.
Great, thank you, Leroy. What's the place for homegrown solutions? And thinking about what is our individual contribution towards those homegrown solutions. Yes. Super, such compelling things. Of course, there's always sadness when we look at the time and be like, we needed 5 more hours to just keep talking and talking and talking. But Gigi, where do we go from here? How do we make our stamp felt on this planet?
Well, thanks so much, Pauline, and thank you so much for everyone for being here and for taking the time also to speak with each other. And I hope that all of you can continue a conversation also with yourselves in a reflection around your why. And really allow yourself some time, like how to question yourself, like what are the values? What is the connection to your story, why you want to do, or why you're doing what you're doing, to allow also other people to connect to you on that level. If humans were only rational, we wouldn't have all these problems. And this is maybe also why some people would prefer it to be that way. But it's also all the beautiful things are also connected to that other side of us. Not all of them, but like many. So I think we can also use that to help with creating change. So that overview effect exercise that we did, like zooming out, this is based on an insight actually from astronauts, that when they actually into space, see the planet, that something really changes in them and nobody comes back untransformed. And it's called the overview effect. And there's something about like this emotional connection to the beauty and the awe that we can feel for this planet, that is something that is really important to actually dare to feel, because it's something that will also move other people to actions. Research into decision-making shows that you cannot make decisions without emotions. When the part in your brain is actually impacted by an accident or so, that processes that, people actually are not able to make decisions anymore, even if they have the pro and the cons laid out in front of them, right? So that's something that I think is hopefully something that you can take away from this session. And we will send you an overview of the resources for, your own research, going deeper into the different stages. And of course, the entire internet is full of them as well. And then of course, you are also full of them, because all of our lived experiences are such great teachers as well. And as Pauline said in the beginning, actually, we don't lack so much knowledge, we actually lack doing. And the courage to do and to learn how to do with grace and courage and love, and then, try and do it better again and not be afraid to look at what works, what doesn't, and so on. So we wish the best, first of all, on your journey. We want to honor the time. It's already 1 minute above the time. So let's make it quick and sweet. You will receive the information. You can reach out to either Pauline or me if you have questions. We have applications open for our social innovation management program. So if you're in a moment in your career where that would be interesting for you, you can also ask, and we are happy to share more with you.
Okay, thank you so much, Geraldine and Pauline, for being here today. And thank you all of the ambassadors. I know that this is more time that we have for the other meetings, but I think the topic of this session, it was really interesting, and we need more time to speak about this topic of today's topic. So thank you so much for participate here. I hope you have enjoyed the session, and I hope you can participate at the coming meetings that we will prepare for you. This is one of the training sessions, but we will have more hosts and a speaker to speak about interesting topics that you may know. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, night, or evening, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.